So in Godot 4.3, we have a new node. The Parallax 2D node is used to create a parallax scrolling background. But is it any good? How does it compare to the previous parallax nodes, and should it completely replace the parallax nodes? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. Let me explain. So for those who don't know, the parallax effect is essentially just a scrolling background. This is used in games to create infinite scrolling backgrounds. Think of something like Flappy Bird, how the background continues to scroll with the player. That's the parallax effect. Basically, images and textures will loop in the same position over and over. Parallax 2D node is used to create that effect. It does that in a variety of ways. Let's start off with the scroll scale property. This property allows the background to move at a speed relative to the camera. You don't really need to edit this property. The scroll offset property simply offsets the parallax node and its children from the original position. Now for the repeat tab, this is the important part. Repeat size repeats the texture 2D of the parallax node's children. Basically, the number of pixels that you set is going to be the distance between each parallax. You typically want to set this on one axis, otherwise it'll repeat twice in the same viewport, which isn't what you want. You also want to set this value based on how large your viewport is. So for example, my viewport is 1152 pixels long. Therefore, if I want the texture to repeat without any overlap or breaking, I just set the x-axis to my viewport size. The auto scroll is the velocity at which the offset scrolls automatically. So in simple terms, it's basically how fast the child nodes will scroll. The repeat times property overrides the amount of times the texture repeats. It will spread evenly from the original texture. This is really useful when you're zoomed out of the texture. So maybe you have an effect in your game where the camera starts zoomed out then zooms in. The texture will still show. The limit end and limit begin set the scrolling end and beginning. If the camera is outside of the limit, the Parallax 2D stops scrolling. You don't really need to edit these properties since it's set in a way to where the Parallax 2D won't stop scrolling. In the override dropdown, you have the follow viewport boolean. If this property is true, the Parallax 2D is offset by the camera's current position. The ignore camera scroll boolean determines whether the Parallax 2D's position is affected by the camera's position. So if the camera is moving, the Parallax 2D will move with it. That's it for the node's properties. Generally speaking, you only need the properties in the repeat tab since that handles the scrolling and the repeating. I think this node is a great replacement for the original Parallax nodes. It does the same thing while making the process simpler. Fewer nodes, fewer properties to edit, and the same results. Still listed as experimental, so you may find some bugs or issues. One thing I noticed was the processing of physics bodies. The edge of platforms was not able to detect any collision, which led to players falling through even though it clearly made the jump. It also led to some jarring moments where the player seems to fall, then randomly pops back up onto the platform. Other than that though, I didn't find any other bugs. I hope you all learned something from this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Trying to reach 1,000 subs, so your help would be much appreciated. With that being said, have a great rest of your day, and I'm out of here.